folks just a few more seconds or minutes to trickle in. In the meantime, please feel free to use the chat if you have any questions you'd like to get me like me to get through. But before we get started with that, just a quick intro. My name is Zoe. I'm an account manager here at Sin7. I've been here about 2 years, but have been focused on Foresight AI for the last 6 months. So you're definitely in good hands. Again, use the chat, not just now, but throughout the presentation if you do have any questions. With that, I don't want to delay in getting started since we do have quite a bit to go over today. But first, I do want to launch a poll since I want to ensure that I'm getting through the right material for the right folks. So as far as starting today, is there anything anybody's most interested in on this list as far as like going over? So what are you most interested in? We have solving overstock, solving for stock out, saving time reordering, saving time in guesswork on how much to order, everything or unsure. As per usual, it looks like quite a few of you are saying everything and also saving time in the reordering, which I will definitely get to as well. But because folks, a lot of you are saying everything, we will definitely make sure to cover that. Awesome. Okay, with that, we will go ahead and end this poll. Thank you so much for participating so I kind of know where to spend my time. With that, just one more time, my name is Zoe. I'm an account manager here at Sin7. Feel free to use the chat as we get started. First things first, though, what is Foresight AI? Foresight AI is a sales and inventory forecasting tool used to help you know what to order, when to order, and how much you should be ordering. So Foresight AI is designed to take the guesswork out of your inventory management to give you back time and reordering, as well as capital and stockouts and overstock amounts. Foresight AI can also help make crucial business decisions in what products are performing well, allowing you to dig deeper into your business strategy to become more efficient and successful. With that, let's go ahead and hop into the demo. So first things first, what you may see on your account is this inventory health report, which we have branded with this purple Foresight AI, showing it is the AI technology. And this is going to be essentially what Foresight AI is trying to solve for. What does your inventory health look like? So we have our stock out amount in terms of a percentage of our overall products offered. So about 4.5%. Directly correlated to that number, we have the lost revenue to stockouts, and that's 25K, and that's monthly, so something to just kind of pay attention to. Essentially saying because we have these 4.5% of items stocked out, this is the lost revenue monthly we're losing from that. And then on the opposite side, we have our overstock value, which is over 600. So in this case, I'd say with this demo environment, definitely more focused on probably solving for the overstock problem. But as we start to use Foresight AI over time, we're actually going to solve for both of these. As this number goes down, this number goes down, which means more money in your pocket. This number going down also frees up capital for you. And we can get into this a little bit more. So if we click the Explore button, this is going to show us our product availability report. So essentially what items are stocked out, overstocked, or stocked regularly. So we have these new purple Foresight AI columns. We have winners and we have our stock indicators. I'll get into winners in a minute, but as far as stock indicators, we can see that we have a stock out here. We have some overstocks that are winners. And if we go through, we can see that at some point we'll just have a blank. That means it's stocked well enough. It's not an overstock or a stock out. And we don't have necessarily a purple winner, which means it's probably middle of the road performing. It could also be a loser, but we'll get into that a little bit more. So just kind of giving you that overall snapshot of a SKU. And you can search a SKU so you can see which one it might fall under, but I won't for purposes here. As a pro tip, though, and we're starting to think about what to do when you're first getting started with Foresight AI, a pro tip is to focus on your winners that are stocked out because these are the items making you money that you're therefore missing out on that revenue. Right here, right, that lost revenue from stockouts. So if you have cash flow constraints, this should be an immediate priority because this is going to be an easy win, right? If you stock these items, you're going to sell them. And also just kind of as a note with that product availability, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but core reporting can be a bit static. So I do recommend downloading the report, filtering by winners, and then stockouts to best target what you should be focusing on. And there's another way to do this that I'll get into later as well. So you'll be able to probably see inventory health, and you may have seen this already if you've logged into your account since mid-October, so in the last month or so. But everything here after this is I'm going to show you is actually going to be new. So if we scroll down a little bit farther, the first new widget we're going to see is this over and under stock. So now it's going to break down even further what category specific SKU falls into. I also have this purple eye showing a little bit more information. So we have our stockouts, and each of these are actually a clickable report. So it's going to be a little bit more in depth than this Explore Product Availability report because it's going to filter by each type of stock. I also forgot to call out that this will show last updated. So this is updated today, which is great, about 2 hours ago. And yours will probably sync at least once a day, probably multiple times a day. Something really cool about this as well is this over and under stock, we can actually see by specific warehouse locations. If we're thinking about Foresight AI trying to solve for your overstock and understock, that's not just at the warehouse level, but it's at all of your warehouse levels. So ensuring that your products are in the correct place so that they're matching essentially, so your inventory forecast is matching your sales forecast, right? Getting towards that optimization where eventually you're buying exactly what you're selling. So as far as why these numbers are important, right? Excess inventory, so talking about that overstock, that can tie up 20 to 40% of revenue for businesses hampering cash flow, right? This is this number right here. If this number is tied up just in stock, not only is that stock that you've bought, but it's also missing out on revenue, and it's also likely more warehouse space than you probably need. So this number is actually probably under what it really should be as far as what it's costing your business. Next, that overstock can also prompt discounts of up to 50% or more, hurting those profit margins, or maybe even selling at a loss. And then also, if we're talking about this inventory accuracy, the average US retailer only has 63% inventory accuracy, mainly caused by human error. Depending on what your stock reordering process looks like now, I like to say that some folks live in Excel land, and you may be someone who's there where you're downloading reports, seeing what you have, ordering to a certain baseline, or just maybe even doing a gut check of what you think you're going to be selling in the next, couple months up until you order again. This is going to solve for that problem, what to order, when to order, and how much, taking out A, a lot of guesswork, and B, a lot of that time. And so, yeah, essentially this overstock and understock reporting can help prioritize what products to focus on for maximum efficiency. So feel free to click into each section like I already pointed out. Next, we have our winners and our losers. Again, no more filing through Excel and pivot tables to get this information. It's readily available and dynamic. And I want to point that it's dynamic because it's constantly changing from the micro adjustments from your real-time sales and AI. But essentially, it's going to show you your winners or your high performers, chasers, middle of the road, and then your losers or your low performers. So we have our stock value of what is a winner, and then the stock share, the percentage of your product that falls into this category for each of these. And you can also do it by location. Something interesting to point out is that it's going to, Foresight AI is going to help you look at a location level. So where a stock might be a winner in one, it also might be a loser in another. And taking a step back, why are we looking at winners, chasers, and losers? Why does it matter? Now it's going to allow you to quickly and easily identify which products are driving growth and which ones are holding you back. So this is going to help you optimize the inventory levels of winners to maximize that revenue and then eliminate lost sales from those stockouts. So I'm going to pause here for another poll. And this one is going to be talking about everything that I've talked about with your winners, chasers, and losers, thinking about how frequently they update. I'm just kind of curious how confident are you in your winners and losers? 1 being not so confident, 3 being somewhat confident, 5 being very confident. And we generally have a bell curve, it looks like, around 3, couple 1s, couple 5s, just kind of something to get you thinking about, right, that zoomed out level of what stock is doing well. How can I continue to make sure that that's in stock so I'm maximizing my sales, right? Thank you so much for participating. And just kind of something to note, if you have a great process now, that's awesome. This could also just be a huge time saver in that, and also maybe can help you navigate the middle of the road, chasers, not necessarily just your winners and your losers. So it gives you a little bit more, a third kind of camp to fall into. Awesome. And with that, we have one last widget to go over on this page, and this is stock trend. So as you can see, we have our stockouts, lost revenue to stockouts, and our overstock value. This is actually going to match the data that's up here in the inventory health. However, this is going to show it over time, so how well it has been performing. We can see that our stockouts were pretty high for a while, but it looks like we tuned it in and they're fairly low now. Similar, and would make sense to see that the lost revenue also kind of tracks that. And then we can see that our overstock is actually climbing. So I would say this would give me a good indicator that I should probably rein in my overstock right now. Maybe start to strategize on how I want to get rid of some of my overstock that are losers. What do I want to do with that? Do I just want to sell it at a loss and maybe stop reordering it? Do I want to have a sale, etc.? So this gives you that empowerment to make those types of decisions. Let's see. We're ready for another poll. And this poll is going to be a little bit more of like a summary kind of a poll about all the things, all the wonderful things that we've already been over. So far, which feature seems most useful to you? We have our inventory health, we have our over and under stock, we have our winners and our losers, and then we have our stock trend graph. So just a couple. Looks like all pretty even, but I think inventory health is just a little bit more useful to some of you, which totally makes sense. I'd say that's probably the biggest big picture for what Foresight AI is trying to solve for. Thank you so much for participating. With that, we will go ahead and move on. So we just went over all the new insights and widgets available to you to show you the health of your inventory. Now, how do we fix it? So like I said, Foresight AI is designed to fix a very big problem: what to order, when to order, and how much. So this is where smart reorder is going to come into the picture. So taking a step back, Foresight AI is using your sales order history, AI, and a bunch of algorithms to calculate your reorder quantity. So not only that, it's relying on your purchase order periods, meaning how frequently you order from suppliers, and your lead times, how long it takes you to get the items, to help with when to reorder. So there's a huge complexity behind the numbers generated, and here are some ways that you might want to filter and view this page when coming up with a replenishment order. So period is going to be when you want to order, and you can see that you can order today, next week, or even today, this week, next week, this month, or the next few months. What this is going to do is generate the replenishment for that period, recommendations of when you should be ordering. So today, it's only going to tell you what SKUs you should be ordering today from your suppliers. This week, it's going to give you all the replenishment recommendations for the next 7 days. So depending on how you like to do your ordering, some folks like to come in here every day and make new orders. Just really depends on the size of your business. Some folks, they just do this week, and then they get all their ordering done at one time during the week. So it just kind of depends on your preference. Next, we have our reorder type. And reorder type is, there's a lot that Smart Reorder is actually accounting for. And so I'm going to go through these, and they can be a little bit confusing at first. So again, feel free to use the chat function. So purchase is going to be a simple purchase from a supplier. And reorder type is really going to be movement of your stock. And so purchase order is going to be that first movement of getting stock from a supplier and putting it into your inventory. Transfer is going to be an intercompany transfer, either from a warehouse to a store, a warehouse to a production facility, anything internal moving from one warehouse to the next. And then we have assembly, and this is actually going to, if you're someone who uses production jobs or assemblies, this is the capture for both of those, but this is essentially going to help you create and prompt a production job or an assembly job, because it is trying to ensure that you have the finished goods to match your sales forecast. Therefore, this reordering is not going to account just for finished goods, but also raw materials. And then creating an assembly job so that those raw materials get converted to the finished goods. And then that way it's kind of tracking that as well. I will say, just as a disclaimer, still continue to use your production module or your advanced manufacturing as your single source of truth for actually tracking the production. This is merely a guide of tracking and ensuring that you have the correct amount of raw materials at the correct time to complete enough of the finished good to match that sales forecast. So you may have a really simple, maybe you don't use assemblies, maybe you're just having purchase orders, they go into a warehouse, you transfer them to your stores. That's totally fine, and Foresight AI accounts for that. Maybe you have something a little bit more complex with production, in which case I'm getting a purchase order of raw materials to warehouse one. I transfer them to warehouse B, that's a production warehouse. An assembly job will then be generated as a suggestion, then it will be completed, and then it will be transferred back to stores. So that also is something that the smart reorder can account for. Next, we have supplier, fairly straightforward if we want to filter these suggestions only from a certain supplier. And then last, destination location, where the goods are ultimately going to end up. So in this case, I'll keep it really simple as a purchase for this week, and then I will generate suggestions. And I want you to think about the time that it takes you right now, maybe in Excel land, to be coming up with that reorder. All I had to do was click that button. So you can see huge, huge time save. On the left-hand side, essentially it's going to tell you that exact problem, what to order, when to order, and how much. So I have the supplier, I have the product, the date of reordering, how many I have on hand, and then my reorder quantity. Now, this is where the human meets AI element, where if you click on this, you can actually edit this number. You can do this for a number of reasons. Granted, this is what the computer is telling you to match that sales forecast. Like I said, and the timing of this mainly is based on that purchase order period and the lead times, but also definitely the quantity as well. But you can make this be higher, you can make this be lower if you cash flow constraints. Maybe in the beginning, if you have a lot of stock outs telling you to do a lot of stocking, and if you have cash flow constraints, which I'm sure a lot of us do, you can always, bump this number down. And then as far as reordering, all you need to do is make sure that these are clicked and then click on reorder. It'll create a draft PO and all you have to do is approve it. So that's that huge time save that I brought up at the very beginning, as well as taking out the guesswork since this reorder quantity is generated for you. Couple other things to note that I haven't really gone over, and taking into account that Foresight AI algorithm, like I said, it's sales order history, AI, and some algorithms to come up with this number. Not only that, though, it does need or Foresight AI does need at least 6 months of data to start accurately predicting, or sorry, to start accurately forecasting, ideally 2 years, because it does account for seasonality of items, which is great, right? Again, we're talking about that overstock and ensuring that you don't have overstock on seasonal items and holding on to them all year. However, if you don't have 6 months of data in your core instance, if you've been with us less, but you have that data somewhere else in like a CSV or an Excel, we can certainly update that for you and we can manually add Foresight AI to your account. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Next, we have reports. And if you have any questions on this, again, feel free to add them to the chat. Reporting also is new, or we do have some new reports to you available to you in the purple. It'll have a Foresight AI reports. These are all going to be technically available on that dashboard, but if you just want to hop in here really quickly, you're more than welcome to do so. Again, as a pro tip that I already kind of touched on, due to some of the constraints with reporting within Core, I would recommend downloading the winners and losers report into Excel so you can get better access to the information. Currently, it's in alphabetical order and does not allow for grouping, so the information is there. It's just not as easily laid out as we would like it to be. However, this is something we're working on, so hold on tight. But just wanted to point that out. But you can have, yes, your overstock, your stock out, and your sales forecast. And speaking of sales forecast, this is where you're going to be able to download a report of what your forecast looks like in the next couple months. But there is something available to you in addition to that. And I'll get into that right now. So if, you need to do some fine tuning into your account, that's definitely something that I can show you. All of this is probably going to be a lot of your day-to-day, right? The forecast, the reporting I just showed you, the dashboard, and probably a lot of that smart reordering that you're going to be in day-to-day. But what are you going to do if, you have labor as a SKU? That's not necessarily something you're going to want to reorder. What do you do about new items? What about SKUs that you're sunsetting? You can find this all under that Smart Reorder tab. And a little bit more information that's maybe not available. Well, it's available to you here, but maybe laid out slightly differently under this forecast and settings. So if I click into this, for some of you, if you've been following our Foresight AI journey, this may look familiar to you as Foresight AI is not necessarily brand new, but a reiteration of Inventoro. which we've had since May of last year. So a lot of this information is already going to be available to you in core as the modules and sections we went over, and this may give you the information organized a bit differently. So feel free to poke around here and get acquainted with your account. Like I said, I showed you that report that had your sales forecast. If you're more visual like me, you may find that this is a little bit, I don't know, more digestible or better for a snapshot. And I also like this because you still have the filters available to you, meaning I can filter this graph by warehouse, supplier. I think warehouse 3 was working. I have demo data, but yours will definitely show more, more information. Supplier, category, and product, and you can filter these on top of each other. So say I have a few stores that carry the same item. I can look at the product and the warehouse together and see how this graph changes over time. I can also create a forecast adjustment. And what that means is, I've already talked a little bit about, the Foresight AI algorithm, but the computer doesn't know what it doesn't know. So this would be a case that you may want to create a forecast adjustment, such as a change in percentage, a trend in percentage, or a change in quantity. So your year-over-year growth is not necessarily going to fall under this because Foresight AI is already tracking that sales history trend or that sales trend. However, change in percentage would be something like a big marketing campaign or sale. And it would be a new one. So I would say for those of you who are already planning for Black Friday in a few weeks, you may already see if you've had, historic Black Friday sales already. Foresight AI is actually already going to account for that. But if this is one of your first years, you're expecting, you've partnered with a new distributor in that time, or in the last year, you're expecting a lot higher sales, a forecast adjustment would be appropriate. Trend and percentage is going to be something a little bit more subtle and longer term. That could be pairing with a new distributor, opening up a new store, right? Something that is going to affect your overall business. And then a change in percentage is more than just a change in percentage. You can filter down by warehouse, supplier, category, product, brand, collection, winner or loser, and order. And then this is what current adjustments look like. So if you were to apply one, this is what it would look like depending on the type. And then I highly recommend having a note. And then you can do a certain time period start and time period end. Notes are really, really helpful. I would say definitely fill that in for what it's for. That way you can keep track of them. And I will click X here. So that's just a quick rundown of this screen I find really helpful. Reports are going to have the same reports as Foresight or as in your core instance. Winners and losers, also kind of nice if you're wanting to filter down by this warehouse, supplier, category, and product level. Couple of things to note on here, the fine-tuning product segmentation. This is going to be what your winners and losers strategy is on. So mine's on profit, but you could change yours to revenue, sales frequency, or sales quantity. I would say this is something that is set it and forget it. So what I mean by that is try not to change this too frequently, as it can, as try not to change it too frequently, because it can in turn impact your winners and losers, which can in turn change your replenishment, but can also change your forecast. So a lot of different at play, which is why we'd say not to recommend, or we recommend not to change it too often. Next, we have suppliers, and this is going to be something to just kind of double check. But if you want to have a minimum order, you can set that here. Purchase order period. This is all carrying over from core. But if you need to adjust something, you're more than welcome to here based on your data being, is it coming from core? Do you want it to override? Next, we have warehouses, and this is where you can set up your warehouse hierarchy. In this case, it's already set up for me, showing that goods cascade in a way similar to a waterfall. So all the goods are going to be shipped to location 3, and then they flow. Some of them will flow to location 2, and then location 2 feeds into 16, 17, and 15. So 15, 16, 17. So that's kind of something to note if you haven't already set that up. If you also are not using a warehouse anymore, you can unclick this and then it will no longer be visible, meaning Foresight AI will no longer push materials or goods that way. Designated if it's a production warehouse, which also will probably carry over, but something to just check just in case. And then for anything that's visible or moving around, you'll be able to change that transfer lead time. How long does it take for it get from warehouse to warehouse? And also how frequently you're transferring, once a week, once every 2 weeks, etc. Last but not least, we have our edit arena, and this is going to be really helpful on making those micro adjustments that I was talking about in the very beginning of going over this. So we have our product, and you can do it by clicking on product, and then it would let you search. In this case, I already have product available, and we'll just keep that here. So I have my ID, my product, my supplier, where it comes from, my warehouse, where it lives. And then in this case, I also have a parent warehouse. So we can see that I have this product 287 at location 3, and then I also have it at location 2, but this one feeds from location 3. I can set a minimum order quantity here, which, yeah, if you're ordering, you have a special deal with a supplier, could be very helpful. Packing, how many come in a package? So like a dozen eggs, 12 eggs come in one carton. You would put a 12 here. We also have orderability and visibility. So when I was talking about like, we're talking about how to track labor, how to maybe track water, um, some one-offs that you maybe don't want to see in replenishment. Orderability is going to take it out of replenishment, so smart reorder, but you're still going to see it in forecast and winners and losers. Good example of this would be custom furniture. That's something you don't necessarily want to be having on hand, but it is something you want to see if there's a forecast for it, so you can do some future planning, as well as you want to see if you're really doing well, if you should continue to make it as a winner or a loser. Visibility is going to take it out altogether. So that would be like labor or water. Those aren't necessarily something you need to have on hand, or you don't need to you need to purchase labor, right? But you also probably don't necessarily need to see it in your forecast and your winners and your losers. When it was created, item minimum inventory and maximum inventory. So if I go to my forecast, I see that I have this safety stock. Foresight AI is going to calculate that safety stock or that minimum inventory for you, and it's going to change depending on your sales. Periods of high sales, it's going to have more on hand as your safety stock, because it's accounting for, if I under forecast and I sell more, I want to make sure I have a lot on hand to cover that. In a similar instance, if I have lower sales during a period, I don't need quite as much safety stock. So that is changing, or it is dynamic and does change month to month. However, if you want to have a minimum or maximum inventory designated, this is where you could do that. Expiration in days applicable if you work in the food and bev industry, or health, anything along those lines. This isn't necessarily something that's going to help with batch numbers, but it is going to give you an expiration in days. You can give like a rough estimate for how long it would until it expires. Purchase period and lead times. I showed you how to do this on a supplier level, but if you have certain one-offs for purchase period and lead times, you could do so here. Volume, weight, and predecessor was what I wanted to call out. What do you do about a new item? So a new item will show up as a new item, and it won't necessarily start having an accurate sales forecast until about 90 days. However, you can actually link an older item data to new item data, so that it immediately essentially links and what is it? Yeah, it links that sales forecast. So you have a forecast to go off of. And then as you start selling, it'll make those micro adjustments and then turn it into its own forecast slowly over time. Replenishment recommendations, automatic is going to be on everything in Foresight AI, all of the factors. Replenishment using sales forecast is going to more heavily weigh the sales forecast among the other items. Replenishment using minimum inventory. If you set a minimum inventory, as soon as you dip below that, it would trigger a smart reorder. Or we have using custom orders, and that would be, it would only create an order for you to replenish if a customer order came in for it. So again, kind of falling under that custom furniture potentially, that would be a good fit for that. And with that, that was all I really have as far as the live demo. So we're kind of back, full circle, back to the beginning. And if there's anything I can leave you with, let me leave you with this. Foresight AI's advanced forecasting empowers businesses with affordable, intuitive tools to unlock efficiency, free up inventory capital, and never miss a sale. So if you liked the information we went over today, please feel free to take advantage of our Foresight AI new sign-up offer. For the first 300 participants, we're giving away 6 months, 50% off, so do not delay. You can sign up for Foresight AI under your subscription tab in Core. And in addition to that, we also are doing free onboarding with those 300 participants. That is a $750 value. So if you're even on the fence, I would definitely want to take advantage of that and getting it all fine-tuned and set up with one of our experts. Please feel free to stick around and ask questions in the Q&A. We will be sending out a copy of the recording and a follow-up email. Otherwise, thanks for joining and have a wonderful day. With that, we can go ahead and jump to some questions. And I'm going to reset this before I tackle the questions. Perfect. Back to Smart Reorder. First question, is there a way to tell the AI that we are running promotions, etc., for future months? Great question. And that was answered in that forecast adjustment. So again, you can either do it if we go to the forecast adjustments right here. We could do a change in percent if it's change in percentage if it's going to be overall throughout your entire catalog. However, if it's just going to be for a certain item, I would say do a change in quantity. And then you could run it maybe on a certain brand or a certain product or a certain collection. So fairly easy to do. And it would look like this if you wanted to do a change in percentage. And this is what a change in quantity looks like. Awesome. Next question. Has there been any feedback on the forecast accuracy improvements when using Foresight AI? Yes. So this is going to be, if you log into this page and you scroll down, 71% is going to be Foresight AI's average sales forecast accuracy. And this is essentially saying, based on your sales order history, how accurately and how confident is the computer in predicting the future? So it's not necessarily a platform, like it's not necessarily the computer's fault if it is low. It's just saying you have some sporadic data on the left-hand side in your sales order history. So it's going to be hard to even like for the smartest computer to then predict that in the future if it's a little bit sporadic and it's hard to find any trends. But I would say as Foresight AI's moved to the embedded experience within Core, there's definitely less data mapping issues that some folks had to deal with because Core can be used kind of in various ways. So ensuring that it was mapped correctly to Foresight AI, sometimes we needed our text to be on it. So I'd say we have that a lot less of an issue now. Awesome. Next question. Can you please explain the page where there were 4 options to select weight towards profit again? What will this impact have on the forecast? Sure. So on the right-hand side, that was the product segmentation under strategy. And essentially, this was what do I want my winners and losers to be graded on, for lack of a better word? Do I want my winners to be focused on high profit, high revenue? So profit being right profit and revenue being revenue, sales frequently, how fast they're moving, and then sales quantity, just number of sales total. And so this can change depending on your business. And really this is something that like you're empowered to do, you know your business best. I have seen sales frequency be used for like car parts. Right? Profit and revenue are maybe not super helpful, but sales frequency of car parts is really showing us what the winners and the faster movers are. But what this does is it's going to impact what your winners and losers are. And then it's going to focus on that strategy for the computer of really where you should be focusing on your replenishment. Because if you change from profit to sales frequency, that's going to change how the replenishment views those winners and losers. It's going to shift how you focus on what you actually are reordering. And then it's not necessarily going to change the forecast, like I said earlier, but it could change the forecast depending on how your replenishment does. So it's a little bit of a domino effect. Oh, and you're welcome. Somebody also is asking to get more into the production jobs in the assembly. So that's a great question. We'll go back to the smart reorder. So the assembly is actually going to cover production jobs and assembly jobs. And like I said, it's not necessarily going to be a movement of a stock, but a transformation of a stock from those raw materials into that finished good. I had a production job earlier, assemblies. Oh, I'll just show you. So if we do this week and we have our purchases and I want to generate a suggestion, what I can do is I don't want to necessarily click all of them, but if this one, I click reorder. what it is going to do on the bottom right-hand side is purchase order. Oh, I have it on purchase order. That would be why. This is what it would look like though, showing you something separately. But this is what the purchase order would look like. Do, 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 do. And awesome. So now it's converted. It no longer lives in my smart reorder, which is great, but I do want to show you what assembly looks like for this week. So we'll go ahead, it will show everything. I'll click that, I'll unclick that so I can just click on one, reorder. And now my assembly job is created. And if I click on assembly, I can void it. It's authorized, so it is gonna in progress date, completion date. But essentially it's gonna follow that assembly throughout the whole job and it'll show us what quantity is available, etc. But the main point I want to get across is that smart reorder is going to follow that entire cycle of the SKU. So it's going to be ordering these raw materials so that you have this completed on time, this certain amount completed on time to match that sales forecast. So it's definitely going to help with that planning piece. But again, you're able to edit that. So that's where the human meets AI. Awesome. That is all of the questions. I'll give folks an extra couple minutes to check out this slide because I think it really, if you're a numbers person, this really encapsulates, I think, the value of Foresight AI. But hopefully you've seen the demonstration both in freeing up capital and also freeing up a lot of time, truthfully, in that reordering process, especially if you're if you're a big company and you've got quite a few orders, but also even if you're a one-man person or one man, one woman, one they company, want to make sure that you're also able to free up some time because that's huge for anybody. With that, no more questions. I will be sending out an email later with the recording. So if you do have any questions in the future, feel free to respond to that email. Other than that, have a wonderful rest of your day, night, or morning, and we will chat soon. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.